So the big challenge before everybody who wants to be a lifelong learner is how to learn anything. People sometimes doubt that, and they don't believe that that can be done at all, that not everybody can learn anything. But there have been some people who have almost tried to say that anybody can learn almost anything if he seriously works at it. Malcolm Gladwell is a very famous writer who propounded what is called the 10,000 hour rule. So he said that if you want to be an expert in any field, you need to devote about 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to that activity, and then you will become the world's number one in that. Now most of us don't have 10,000 hours for each of the things that we want to learn, and that is not necessary because we don't want to be the number one in every field. What we want to do is to have a working knowledge, a fluency, a ability to be able to do useful stuff in a number of fields. And Josh Kaufman is a person who propounded that idea. He says you can learn anything in 30 hours, provided you follow a systematic method. So that is a matter of detail that you can follow. But he gives his own example. He learned various things. He learned how to make websites, he learned how to play a certain game, he learned foreign languages and so on. And the key principle that he says is very interesting. The key principle he says is that normally when we learn anything in a natural way as we go, we follow what is called the plateau of learning, which is a S-shaped curve which rises initially very gradually, then somewhat steeply, and then tapers down. He says if we change this learning curve to make it steeper, we will achieve our goals faster. And he has given lots of examples of how this can be done. It's basically about deliberate practice, focus, and being on the task and not being distracted, and so many things that happen when we are looking at the normal way. Another very interesting idea about how to learn anything comes from a Nobel Prize winning physicist called Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman is known for his work in particle physics, electrodynamics, and so on and so forth, but he had a very nice model for how to learn anything. And he says if you want to learn anything, don't try to keep an exam as your output, that I want to learn so that I can pass the exam. He says you go one step further and say I want to learn anything so that I can teach it to somebody else. And he says if you were to go about learning something in a way that you are ready to teach that thing to somebody, then you have really been able to learn that. And this is something which is very, very interesting. And if you recall my earlier video where I talked about communication as an important part, because when you are going to do something which you just learn and then maybe repeat, that becomes rote learning. You may get 99% in the mark in the exams, but only when you are explaining this to somebody else and that person raises doubts on your steps, how you're going about challenging how one conclusion follows from a previous presumption, then only you are really able to do that. So with these methods, you should be equipped to be able to learn almost anything that you set your heart to.